I denne episoden av Portrettpodden.
It's weird doing a comedy show to silence.
Yeah.
Brad is totally used to it. It was right after a North American Christmas, which is just consumerism and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like the next day, we were in the jungles of the Congo in these villages with just poverty, but the people were amazing. And I just like images like my wife leading all the village children by the watering hole in the hokey pokey, and just seeing the joy and happiness. And I got dysentery, but it was fine. He was one of those people who knew the crew's names within 10 minutes of like the rehearsal and meeting. And just seeing the crew's face kind of light up when he would call him by name, where he would go, Jerry, is my mic? And you could just see, Robin Williams knows my name.
Du hører på Portrettpodden med Mats Lasseangos. Det stemmer. Du hører på en episode av Portrettpodden. En podcast hvor jeg intervjuer mennesker som inspirerer meg, som får meg til å tenke, og så hjelper meg å forstå mer av verden jeg lever i. Mitt navn er Mats Lasseangos, og sammen med min gjest skal vi være stemmene i hodet ditt den neste timen. Min gjest i denne episoden er skuespiller og improvisatør Colin Mochrie. Kanadieren født i Skottland er mest kjent som fast deltager på programmet Whose Line Is It Anyway, og gjennom en 40 år lang karriere har han hatt sin del av minneverdige øyeblikk. Men da covid-19 slo ut verden, gikk han fra å ha en stappfull kalender til å være i en sårbar gruppe i en pandemi over natta. I løpet av denne episoden snakker vi om hans inspirasjonskilder, den uventet suksessen med Whose Line, den gangen han fikk leke med avdøde Robin Williams, hvem som hadde vært minst passende til å spille han i en film, og hvorfor akkurat hovedrollen i en actionfilm står øverst på ønskelista. Dette og mye mer i denne episoden av Portrettpodden. Jeg ønsker dere riktig god fornøyelse, og her er Colin Mochrie. Colin Mochrie. Most, if not all of my audience will of course know you from Whose Line Is It Anyway. And we'll, of course, get to that during the course of this interview. But I read somewhere that when you were growing up, you'd rather want to be a marine biologist?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it worked out for everyone. I was a quiet kid. I was very studious. I was an honor roll student. And I was fascinated by the ocean and things that lived in the ocean. And I think part of it was there was a show called Flipper, which was about a dolphin, of course, about a dolphin and his friends. So I think that really inspired me. That was the inspiration behind me wanting to become a marine biologist. And then in the second to last year of high school, a friend of mine, because I was so quiet, a little shy, dared me to try out for the school play, which I got. And then I got my first laugh, and that was the end of everything else. It was like, oh, no, this is what I want now forever. Yeah. So marine biology went far away. I got into theater and then made that slow, long climb to superstardom.
Yeah, which you've now achieved.
Uh-huh.
I remember growing up watching Flipper, and the only thing I could think of was how scary it would be to be in the ocean and all the things that lurk beneath the surface. And I could never have anything to do with the ocean.
It is a scary place. I remember I was doing a school tour with a play, and It was up in the north part of British Columbia, in a place called the Queen Charlotte Islands. And we had been invited to, this person had an island, and we went over there for lunch. And they said, "Oh, I have some ocean kayaks if you want to go out." And I went, "Oh, all right." So I was out there paddling, and then about 500 yards away, I could see this pod of killer whales. And I thought, "Oh, this is so cool." And then I remembered reading something that from underneath, a kayak looks like a seal, which is something killer whales like to snack on.
Yeah.
So that also, I think, finally cemented, yeah, I'm going to stay on land.
A wise decision. Well, we all know the show Whose Line Is It Anyway. We all know you from well, at least a few of us know you from Drew Carey's Improvaganza and all the other improv shows which you've been a part of. And if I'm not mistaken, you've been involved with improv theater for roughly 40 years now.
Yeah. Yeah, when you hear it said out loud, it sounds horrific. But yeah, I think my first improv show was 1980. Yeah, so it's been a little over 40 years. Yeah.
We'll just leave it at that. I don't want to
Sure.
offend my guests.
Oh my God. I was wondering why I felt so old. Yeah, now it's making sense.
I have to admit though that you don't look that old. Well, you look the same like in the first episode of the British Whose Line. So the only thing that sets you apart is the color of your hair, maybe.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go with that. God bless you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, and I mean, I feel quite, although I was flipping the channel the other day and there was a Whose Line on, and I was doing something. I thought, oh, I can't do that anymore. My body won't bend in that way. And that depressed me for a little bit. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, I've been really fortunate that I can still do this at this advanced age.
That was your words, not mine. But yeah, it is the type of show that has this really long longevity, and that it is something that will go on for a long time. And if I'm not mistaken, you've said in another podcast interview that I listened to that you were renewed for another season, but yet you haven't recorded anything since 2019.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's so many great things about the show. And one of them is it's a very short shooting schedule. It's 2 weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Each taping is like 4 hours. And from that, they can cut 4 to 5 shows. So I think earlier when we first started with the CW, we were doing 3 weekends. We had a bigger budget. So there's a lot of extra shows left from that time. So I think a lot of shows that people will be seeing in the upcoming year will be from shows we may have filmed like 4 or 5 years ago, that just all these extra bits that they just said, oh, let's just put this together. It really is. I mean, the show amazes me in that it's popular. It's, you know, when you think of Star Trek, when first Star Trek came out, it didn't do very well in ratings. Then it got canceled, and then it became this this giant hit, like years after being, and it led to all these movies, and then everybody became rich off of it. Our show's not like that. It was never popular. I mean, it was always destroyed in the ratings because we were up against Friends and Survivor, which were popular shows at the time. Yeah. And then, we kind of, every time we come back cheaper. So, but thank good. I mean, the internet is the reason the last incarnation came. We realized Brad Sherwood, who's on the show, and we've been touring for 18 years, and we noticed our audience was actually getting younger, which never happens. And it was because of the internet. People who weren't born during the Drew Carey years were catching it online, and this groundswell happened, and that's why they brought it back to the CW.
Yeah. I was literally, I was honestly think that analogy was going to go somewhere very different, but okay.
No, I'm waiting for our big budget movies and our spin-offs. It's
Yeah.
just not happening.
The Colin Mochrie story with cameos from Drew Carey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd watch it.
sure. Yeah, I would too. That makes two of us at least. We'll jump a bit back and forth in the chronology, of course, but going back to the beginning, the quiet kid born in Scotland, moving to Canada when you were around 7.
Mm-hmm.
You also said in other interviews you got a lot of British comedy shows. You sort of got that influence at home. Who was your biggest inspirations growing up? Because, as you said, you didn't have any plans to become a comedy actor, let's say.
Yeah. Oh, I think I had a lot of inspiration. I mean, when I think of my childhood, I think I feel like I was watching television 24 hours a day. And I know that's not true because I also remember like being outside having fun with my friends. But I mean, comedy shows were I mean, my parents loved, the British Benny Hill, all the kind of lowbrow sort of British things. I would watch shows like the Dick Van Dyke Show, Andy Griffith Show, Carol Burnett, Monty Python became a big, John Cleese sort of became a big influence. So everyone who would make me laugh, I would kind of like watch and try to figure out what it was and then just steal from them. And because I always figure, well, if you steal from someone, but it goes through your physicality and your point of view, then it's not really stealing. You're just reinventing it. But yeah, John Cleese was someone who would just always make me laugh. And there were, I was also a big Bob Hope fan, just from his early movies, because he would do something like he would always break the fourth wall. He had sort of this character who he was a cowardly womanizer, which was an interesting mix. And I just loved the movies he did with Bing Crosby. It was just it seemed ahead of its time. So yeah, there were lots of people who sort of inspired me. Probably John Cleese was the main one.
And might just be me and my weird way of seeing similarities, but watching you on Whose Line dancing around like a chicken compared to John Cleese's silly walks, I see a kind of similarity there.
Oh yeah.
Du hører på Portrettpodden med Mats Lasseangos.
You mentioned your colleague Brad Sherwood. You've taught together, chose together for 18 years. Now that COVID is a thing around the world, how are you coping? Because you did have a lot of projects going on before everything.
Yeah, it was borderline insane before the pandemic hit and we were locked down. I was doing the tour with Brad. I was also doing a tour with a hypnotist named Asad Mekki, and he would hypnotize audience members and I'd improvise with them. The most terrifying show I've ever been a part of, but it was so much fun. And I was also shooting a movie that I still have to get back to. And I realized today, oh my God, I'm going to have to lose like 15 pounds, I think. So I look the same. And then I went from that to being in the vulnerable part of a pandemic.
Mhm.
So everything just kind of stopped, and it was actually kind of good for me because I got rested. I also realized, oh, if I had to, I think I could retire. I
Mhm.
mean, it's not, I don't think it'll happen soon because I just enjoy performing. But I thought, oh, I can relax. And then Brad and I started talking. We realized the past 18 years of our life has been airplanes and theaters.
Mhm.
And then we thought, you know what? That might not be the first things to come back from this.
No.
So our tech team of our booking people and the two of us got together and tried to come up with a way of doing our show. And through this incredible technology that I don't understand, Brad is in Las Vegas. I'm in Toronto. It looks like we're in the same room.
Mhm.
We can go into people's living rooms with them, talk to them, get suggestions, and have them in our scenes. So it's been, and it took us a while to get to that point. And I'd like to just give a shout out to our friends and family who came to our first couple of shows and had to watch what we put them through. Because we tried to do sort of almost a filmed version of our stage show. And we realized very quickly, thankfully for our friends and family, that once you put the show on a screen, everyone's attention span just shrinks.
Yeah.
When we're on stage, we do scenes for like 15, 20 minutes. And we can keep the audience, sort of involved because we're there, and we also sometimes break the wall and talk to them. But on the screens, we realize, okay, we have to make it more of an improvised sketch show where it's still all improvised, but everything has to be fast and short and to the point. We can't meander. So it was also really good for us to learn that, I think. And I think it'll really help us when we get back to being on stage, whenever that is. So we've been doing that every week. We've taken a couple of weeks off. Our next one is May 8th, passportshows.com, if anyone wants to check it out.
Mhm.
It's been, I mean, it's weird doing a comedy show to silence.
Yeah.
Brad is totally used to it. I, however, I need the laughs.
Yeah.
And it's good because we each have two computers, one basically so I can see Brad and see where I am in relation to him on the screen. And then one is the sort of the Zoom portrait of the audience. So we can see them laughing silently, but it's still not the same.
Nope.
But it's been a great substitute. And it really gave us a creative a burst coming up with this show. Because we have this green screen technology, of course, that we don't have on stage. So we found ways of doing really sort of weird sort of puppet characters with our heads, but puppet bodies, and find different locations we can do scenes in. So that was really cool. So it'd be interesting to see if we can take this creative outburst we had and move it to the stage when we're finally allowed to go places.
Yeah. And you, well, like I said, Brad Sherwood is used to not getting laughs. You have, you yourself has adopted the moniker of a laugh whore.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Shameless. My wife calls the guy on Whose Line the other because it is nothing like me in real life. I really am. I'm very reserved. Quite. My wife is the life of the party. She's the storyteller. She's a really funny one. But man, on Whose Line, it's just like I will do literally anything for a laugh. It's embarrassing. And part of me wishes I wish I could kind of almost be that free in real life, but it's probably best I'm not.
Okay. Well, my question is then, how does the laugh whore Colin Mochrie survive doing comedy on a Zoom call? Do you have to do things differently than on stage or on Whose Line?
There is a lot more commitment and confidence that you're being funny because there's no one telling you you're not.
Mhm.
So you just have to go with, this is funny. And I'm not, yes, there's silence, but it is a silence that is imposed upon this platform. It's not, I'm doing something funny in front of a live audience and there's silence. That's a
No.
totally different thing.
Mm.
So it truly is committed. And I think Brad and I also kind of work at that in a way. We're watching each other because we can tell, okay, Brad thought that was funny. So and he's jaded and corrupt. So if he can find it funny, I'm sure the audience can too.
Mm.
So it's a lot of it is like, I guess any improv show is just blind belief that what you're doing is right.
Yeah. Well, like you alluded to, you're willing to do anything to get a laugh on the show, and this is sort of at least my interpretation of it is that you have no fear, you have no boundaries, and you're holding nothing back. You almost answered it already, but are you just as fearless in your personal life?
Oh, no.
No.
No. And because I often try, well, not often, that's just a lie. I never. It's a total lie. But sometimes, people ask me, well, how can you do that and yet be this person off stage? And I have thought about it a little. I don't like to get too cerebral because that could destroy everything. But I think it is when I'm on stage, I'm with people that I trust and know. I know what I'm doing. So in this world, it's the most confident I am because I know I'm in charge. I'm working with people I trust and know have my back. And I know we can work together. And I know the audience will like it.
Mm-hmm.
Although that changes from time to time. But in real life, I don't have any of those. I don't have that. It's no, I'm in this world that I haven't made, and that there's all these rules and people that have their own things that aren't about just making goofy faces.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little more difficult.
Yeah.
Although my wife and I, about 10 years ago, I just realized everything, it's almost like everything I'm telling you is a lie. No, about 10 years ago, we decided we were going to use the rules of improv in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So the main rule is saying yes. You say, it's the rule of yes and. You say yes, and then you build on that. So we made this decision, you know what? Why don't we say yes to more things that may be a little outside of our comfort zone and see where that takes us? And almost immediately after we made that choice, we got a call from an organization called World Vision that we'd done some work with. And they said, we'd like you to go to the Congo.
Okay.
We went, oh, certainly not one of our vacation destinations,
No.
but we had just made this declaration. So we said yes. And it actually ended up being one of the most amazing trips we ever had. It was right after a North American Christmas, which is just consumerism and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like the next day, we were in the jungles of the Congo in these villages with just poverty, but the people were amazing. And I just like images like my wife leading all the village children by the watering hole in the hokey pokey, and just seeing the joy and happiness. And I got dysentery, but it was fine. I mean, it ended up, it was truly one of the most amazing trips we ever had. And since then I mean, within reason. It's not like, hey, you want to jump out of a plane? No, I'm not an idiot. But things I go, well, I'm not sure. We go, yes. And it's 100% of the time, it's ended up being this amazing event where we've met amazing people and we've learned something about ourselves. And so that's good.
Mm.
Yeah.
That was also going to be one of my questions, but good that you already answered it.
My plan is to answer all your questions that lead to other questions.
Yes, and then just lie.
Yeah. Oh, lying has been my friend for years.
Yes. Well, the good thing is most of my audience and myself included don't know you personally, so you could just lie and tell me that it's the truth.
That's
and
right.
I'll believe you.
Geez, I gotta do that more.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
That one's for free.
Du hører på Portrettpodden med Mats Lasseangos.
Look at the whole history of Whose Line as a whole. You've been lucky to work with a lot of interesting people like Tony Slattery and Richard Simmons and David Hasselhoff and Robin Williams, not necessarily in that order. To use the late Robin Williams as an example, is there anything you learned from working with him that you didn't know beforehand?
He was amazing, and of course he was an inspiration to all of us on the show. I mean, he was one of the first people I recall seeing on television improvising. There was another guy, Jonathan Winters, who was sort of a generation before him and actually ended up on Robin's show playing his child, which is weird. But so he inspired all of us and was someone that we all admired. So when he said he would do the show, I mean, he was an Oscar winner. He was, at the time, he was actually filming up in Canada, and he flew down to do the show. And I just learned just the grace he had. I mean, as I say, he was an Oscar winner, but he was just one of the guys.
Cut! I'm really having a hard time staying in character. I know you are! You don't have to tell me! I see better character development on the match game. Let's try to concentrate and work hard! Last night you didn't say that.
And he was one of those people who knew the crew's names within 10 minutes of like the rehearsal and meeting. And just seeing the crew's face kind of light up when he would call him by name, where he would go, Jerry, is my mic? And you could see Robin Williams knows my name. And that was a good reminder of, we're in front of the camera, so obviously we're going to get a lot of attention. But if we did it without sound, say, that would be a difficult show. If all of a sudden the cameramans turned off their thing, it really is a group project. And everyone who's involved in the making of Whose Line, from the people who are shooting it to the people in the offices who are doing the schedules of everyone, working on coming up with ideas to give us. It was just a good reminder of how great it is to make someone appreciated. And it's like, yes, you're a part of this. We're all working on this together. And he, as I say, he was incredibly graceful. He sweated a lot. He went through 3 shirts, and the last shirt, some woman in the audience at the back shouted, give me your shirt, and he took it off and he threw it, and all you heard was this splat as it hit her, which I laughed at. But that was definitely one of the highlights, I think, of all of our careers, to be able to work with him close up and just see that genius at work and just, be a part of it was amazing.
So if hypothetically, we know it won't happen because Whose Line has been renewed for another season. But if it were to end tomorrow, would that be one of the fondest memories you take with you?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, there's um, so many great memories from that show. Like, obviously, Robin was one. When Sid Caesar was on, who was an idol of mine, a man who was part of a show that did 90 minutes live every week, and with writers like Neil Simon, Woody Allen, Mel Brooks, a lot of the most influential comedy writers um, of the last 50 years. So having him on, and at one point I said something funny, he turned and nodded to me, and I thought, oh, I can just die now because no, that was okay. I'm done. I really should have just hung up the floral printed shirt at that point and moved away. But I mean, and also just the friends on the show, like Ryan I knew before Whose Line. We grew up together, but and Brad and Greg and Wayne and Chip Eston. Everyone who's been on that show are like really good friends now, and we've had a lot of we've gone on various iterations of tours with each other. It's so that I think that's the strongest memory, and also just how it changed all of our lives, how it gave us a chance to be able to do this thing that we love through touring or on television. I mean, I remember like the first season of Whose Line when it was popular. It was really it came on as a summer season, and they don't put new stuff on television in the summer, but it just became this immense hit because it was like nothing that had ever been on television. Drew was a part of it, who was incredibly hot at that point. And then we started the fall season, and they had us right after the Drew Carey show, which again, very popular. Again, we did great. And then someone realized, hey, this show is really cheap. Let's put it up against the powerhouse shows, and they'll lose, they'll lose viewers, but it won't cost us anything. I was like, yeah, thanks, guys. But it was just, it was like a weird Hollywood thing. When the American Whose Line started, I was 42. So at that point, I was okay. Whatever happens. I've been through many projects like this will be the thing, and it never happened. And I thought, this is fun. I'll enjoy it while it lasts. And it was really easy not to get up on the Hollywood thing because, well, first of all, they have this thing called the upfronts where all the new shows sort of get together and there's interviews, and it's just people and publicists just walking everywhere. And I saw Dan Patterson, the creator of Whose Line. And it was before we had our big interview a couple of hours later. So I went up to say hi. His publicist or his minder, whoever was with him, kind of stood between us, turned her back to me, and said to him, "Is this guy important?" And I thought, at least make a show of lowering your voice.
Yeah.
I can. And for me, that was great because I thought, oh yeah, this is the part of the showbiz that I don't like, and it's the part that you can't get caught up in because you are the not important guy now. You could be the important guy tomorrow, but the day after you're back to being the non-important guy. So just take it as it is, enjoy, and hope it works out.
Yeah. Like we said, you've been doing improv comedy and acting for many years now, and Whose Line has done over 500 episodes. How do you stay hungry doing the shows? How do you keep having fun after so many years of the same show?
I think that the shooting schedule is a big plus because it's 6 days,
Yep.
and we don't usually see each other throughout the year, or if we do, it's like maybe a day here, a day there. So we still really enjoy each other. We haven't got on each other's nerves. So it's always that excitement of, oh, I'm with my friends, we're going to have fun, and it's like well, it's like after 18 years of touring, I still love it. So it's just being again, just being open to the fun, and hopefully the last couple of years have been a little tough because I find you go, I'm pretty sure I've improvised this before. If we had the suggestion, everything sounds kind of the same, and that's something Brad and I work on when we're doing our stage shows, coming up with ways of asking for suggestions so we get things we've never had before. But sometimes on Whose Line, they go, oh, this worked 5 years ago, let's throw it in again. And it's like, oh, no, you're actually making it harder for us.
Also, I think remember hearing in another interview that you did that Dan Patterson, the producer, he's a bit of a control freak.
Not a bit. He is the poster boy for control freaks.
Okay.
It is so bizarre that he is producing a successful improv show, and it's been for over 30 years, and yet he's still, part of me thinks he still doesn't understand what improv is. Like, he'll come up and go, when we gave you that suggestion, we thought you were going to do that. I said, Dan, we're making it up.
Yeah.
You've seen the show. You know we're making it up. But he really doesn't, he still doesn't get it. God bless him. I mean, his genius always was in the editing of the show, because as he's watching it, he's cutting it into different shows. So he'll go, oh, that sound effects scene was good. That would be a good scene to start off the second half after a commercial, or it could start the show. So the last hour of taping is the most mind-numbing, because it's basically Drew or Aisha going, well, welcome back. Now we're going to go to sound effects. Well, welcome back. Now we're going to go to scenes from a hat. Well, so, and that's where we have to work the hardest, because we have to keep the audience interested in this crap for like an hour. So that's actually where we're probably, we're probably our freest, and things, not me, but other guys tend to work a little dirty at that point, just to get laughs going. I won't mention names.
No, of course not. I think I know who you mean, but I won't.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you, Greg and Ryan.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone except for me.
Yeah, okay. That was going to be my guess. Yeah. But it's also maybe not the smartest guy in the room, I'll be the first one to admit, but every show starts with welcome to Whose Line, the show where everything is made up and the points don't matter. You think after 30 years you caught on to the fact that it's improvised?
Yeah. No, people have always, not so much sometimes the audience, it's a weird beast. I know when they were first shopping it to the US, like one of the questions was, so with all the points, do they win something at the end? And it's like, well, no, the points literally mean nothing. They're just there so we have a place we can use as an editing point. But no. They said, but, well, could you do it so at the end, like someone could win a refrigerator or something? It's like, well, after 30 years of winning refrigerators, we said, no. And the executives never really, my wife was in the green room for the very first taping of Whose Line in America. So it was her and all the Warner Brother executives. So they were watching the show, and the show starts, and of course, the worst thing about watching anything with executives is they just start talking immediately, so you never can actually watch anything. And they said, you know what this show needs? They need stars. So they started talking about people like, what about Lisa Kudrow. She was with the Groundlings. Oh, what about Jennifer Aniston? She's a friend of Lisa Kudrow's. And then they were going through all these names like Julia Roberts, George Clooney. Then someone said Dustin Hoffman. And someone said, no, Dusty isn't hot right now. And then at one point, someone said, hey, what they're doing is really hard. And then there was just silence. It was like, yeah. And what movie star is going to come on this show and take the chance of ruining their career forever? But it was always, the executives never really knew what the show was. I'm constantly shocked that it actually made it to air. I can't even imagine what the pitch was. It was like, yeah, there's these 4 guys you've never heard of. The audience shouts at them, and then they do something because there's no show up to that point. All right, we'll take 22 episodes. Yeah, it's shocking. It's shocking that it got on. It's shocking that it's still being watched. God bless it. God bless Whose Line.
It's also if you go down the Whose Line rabbit hole, you might end up watching an episode you watched before. But I feel it is even more funny to watch the ones that's being censored.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at what did Ryan actually say?
Yeah, that was when we did the show in Britain. There was no censorship. You could do anything. You could, well, I was about to say something that was truly horrible, but I won't, involving the Queen. But you could do pretty much anything. When we went to America, everything was, especially anything sexual, was very but we never knew where the line was. There were things that got through that I thought, really? And then there was one hoedown where Ryan was singing and they bleeped out him saying the word hand. And when you're watching it, your mind immediately goes to 1,000 times worse. And that's what I found weird. The things that they did bleep were usually inoffensive, and your mind would go somewhere much worse or darker, and they never seemed to figure that out.
Oh well, we don't have censorship here in Norway either, so this is a lot funnier to watch stuff because you get away with it a lot more. But yeah. Oh well.
I think it's good, and it was good for us, I think, in Britain, because even though we had that freedom, I don't think we abused it. No. Because we still realized, we want a show that people can watch and families can watch. Mm-hmm. We were doing a show in Britain, an improv show in Britain, but it was on American television. So the American censor came over, and they said, "There's really only 3 things you have to remember: no swearing. You can have 1 dick an episode. All right. Number 2, if you're playing an old person, you can't shake. Okay. And 3rd, if you're playing a prostitute, you have to be, what was the word? You have to be more coquettish than slutty." And I was like, all right. So my 85-year-old prostitute's going to be going to have some problems.
Especially when she gets rheumatism.
Exactly.
Switching up a bit, doing improv is always, like you said, the golden rule of a yes and not having a script for the censors to go through, for example. Everything's improvised. And for example, you and Brad's show would have a show, and the audience is jam-packed, but you have nothing planned. Do you ever go like, oh, F word, we sold out 60,000 tickets and we have nothing planned?
Yeah, there is that for me, it usually happens like just a minute before we go on,
Mhm.
where you go, oh, listen to that audience. Oh, yeah, we don't have a show. And then the minute you walk out, there's just this calm, and you go, yep, okay, I know what's going to happen now. We're just going to have fun. And it works out. The only time I kind of stayed nervous was in the show with the hypnotist,
Mhm.
because we couldn't rehearse it.
No.
So the first show we did was the first show we did.
Mhm.
And it was at the Edinburgh Festival. And because of the way the stage was, there was really no backstage. So before they let the audience in, I had to go into this little alcove covered by a curtain and stand there while the audience filled in and then the show started. And I don't know why I didn't ask this from the beginning, but I went up to the hypnotist and said, Assad, if I ask the audience member to do this, like, will they do it? And he said, I don't know. I went, what? And he said, well, it depends on the subject. Some, yeah, most probably will. Some may, but may have they're almost like they're stoned. So their reaction is going to be a little slow. I went, oh, it was like places. And so I was standing there behind the curtain, listening to the excited audience come in to see this new show. I thought, what have we done? I'm going to be improvising with 5 people who are hypnotized, who I've never met. And I don't know if they're going to actually do the stuff I asked them to do. And so it was terrifying for about the first month.
Mhm.
And then it became, then I realized my fear was I'm the one that has to do everything. But then I learned quickly, I don't. I can actually, these people are pure improvisers. They react to everything I say to them. So all their reactions, so I can play off that. And we've had some amazing improvisers who are just this woman. And I talked to them afterwards to see what their experience was. And all of them say, oh yeah, I remember everything. It's just everything you said just sounded like a great idea. And there was this woman who was like our star of the night. And I was talking to her afterwards. She said, I have no idea why I went up. I suffer from incredible social anxiety, and I've never felt that way before in my life. And she had decided from that moment, I'm going to take improv classes. This was amazing. I want this feeling again. So it was like, oh, all right. So it's not just walking like a chicken. We actually made a difference to this woman's life. And it was sort of interesting how we all have an improviser in there. It's just, it's not what we're used to in our lives. We're not used to listening to people, to accepting ideas, to making the other person look good. So if the world could just improvise, it would be a happier place.
Mhm. If more people could just go, yes, and.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Except for Donald Trump, he should do a lot less, yes. And.
Oh, he's certainly no but.
Anyway, we won't ruin the fun we're having with.
No.
No. My favorite games in Whose Line is where the audience gets involved, like sound effects, for example, or the times when you get the feeling as an audience member, this could go really badly, really quickly, because you have this element of uncertainty. Have you ever gotten to the point where you're about to start the game and you have this gut feeling that this is not going to work, this is going to suck?
Oh, sure. Every game.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what's great is, I mean, the audience brings in a totally different element. You know, when you're working with the other improvisers, everybody kind of, we know what we're doing and how to work with each other and how to give and take. Mm-hmm. With an audience member, and you always think, okay, this is really simple. All I'm saying is, you have to give a sound effect when I set up something. But then there's people, and I think part of it is there's that shock of all of a sudden they're the focus. So they're not really listening. But we've had people just throw in sound effects, and just constantly, as though it's some sort of opera where it's just once where you have to go, no, no, just when we need it. And I had to constantly do it until finally we walked up to the person and stood in front of them. Only I'll point to you, and that's when you do it. So it adds that, and I think those are the moments where, because there's still a lot of people who don't believe improv is real. Yeah. I always, because when at Brad and my show, we always say, how many people believe at Whose Line we got advance information that it was all written. And there's usually about 25 to 30% of the audience raise their hands. My first thing is, why are you here? And so then it's our job to prove that what we're doing is improvised. And people, there have been times I've seen posts, oh, you can see them looking at the cue cards in this scene. It's like, oh, yeah. My thing always is, transcribe the scene you just saw. Look at that and try to make sense of it. It makes no sense. You could not use this as a sketch because it's so of the moment. It's these improvisers, it's the suggestion. But if you tried to make this into some sketch or part of a movie, it truly makes no sense. It just jumps all over the place. And so that's what I love about audience members. It just adds that extra bit of chaos where you go, no, this can't not be written. Otherwise, we're the most amazing actors in the world, and we're not.
It's like having a really serious action scene, and all the sound effects are just ducks. So,
oh yes, the ducks and elephants.
Yeah, you can't plan for that, people. Do you speak a bit more generally? Notice that time is rapidly running out. Do you ever feel like you're being forced to be that funny guy from the telly?
I do feel I disappoint a lot of people when they meet me because, as I say, I'm not that person, and I think it'd be very hard to be married 32 years to that person because that person would get old really fast to you. So when, I love when people come up and I try to be charming, which I'm pretty charming, but I can't, I'm not on all the time. So I feel people going, well, what's this? What's this pale imitation of the guy I like? But then there's this other thing of I do other things besides improv and Whose Line. I've been doing movies and stage, and I always see this thing. Well, he was doing a serious part, but he just makes me laugh, and it's like, but that's not what I was doing at that point. You've got to separate us. It's really, I find it so odd that fans of an improv show are so set in their ways.
Yes.
They always want they're when we started doing the CW, oh, you should get Richard Simmons back. It's like, well, the reason that worked was because that was just of the moment. We can't recreate that.
Nope.
But they want do the same but we're an improv show. It's one of the most rewarding and one of the most frustrating jobs in the world.
Yeah, I'd imagine. We'll do a few more general questions to round off this interview. You've done a lot more than just Whose Line. As you say, you've done King Lear, for example, the play, not the character. You've done the play Art by Yasmina Reza, one of my favorite plays, and still, like you said, you still get that. Well, he was still funny, but do you ever feel like I wish I would have been known for something else?
Do I? I wish.
Yes, and
I'm trying to figure out how to put this. I mean, I've always been comfortable with what I do. I mean, I love doing comedy. It certainly is the most relaxed and the least amount of work for me.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I love doing plays and drama, and I do work hard at that. And um, oh, you know when you try to say something without sounding like what the most conceited dick in the world. But we're about to have our Canadian, it's sort of our Canadian Emmys. It's all our Screen Awards. I've been nominated for 3 different awards. One for a comedy, one where I play a murderous serial killer, and then another one I did with my wife and daughter. So I think, oh, okay, that's cool. That is varied. And I wish people, I don't want people to fall over themselves and think I'm the greatest thing, since sliced cheese, but I would like people to be more receptive to, I can do other stuff. And you have to kind of open your mind. I mean, I don't think anyone, there may have been a few, but I don't think anyone thought, oh, why is Robin Williams doing a drama? Which he won an Oscar for. It's because people have different levels. So many comedians are great dramatic actors. And yet not so many dramatic actors are great comedians. It really is harder. So I guess, I mean, I'm happy for what I'm known for. I just wish I was giving a little more, well, not even acceptance, because I do these things. I just want people to go, oh, he's doing a different part, and not going, oh, he's not making it up.
Yeah.
What a weird answer to your question. It went all over the place.
Well, we all know you are the greatest invention since sliced cheese on sliced bread. So everyone should fall over themselves to at least watch Colin Mochrie as a psychotic serial killer. That is something you don't want to miss.
Du hører på Portrettpodden med Mats Lasseangos.
Doing a tonal shift, or maybe staying in the same lane, depending on your answer. Who would be the least suited person to play you in a movie about your life?
Least suited?
Yeah.
Good question.
Thank you.
Least suited. I would have to go Arnold Schwarzenegger. I couldn't think of a less appropriate. I'd love to see the early years doing the Scottish accent. I'd like to see him use Richard Simmons as a jet ski. I can't, although it just might work.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's a subsection of the audience out there who would love to see Arnold Schwarzenegger kiss Greg Proops on TV. So
Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a market for everything. Do you have any advice or guidance to people, perhaps in my audience, looking to get into improv theater?
Yeah, don't. It's
Okay.
it's a horrible life.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for your interest. My thing always is do it as much as you can, wherever you can. You quickly learn where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are. So it gives you a chance to work on those skills. When I was starting out, one of the things I was worse at was talking to the audience. I just felt very uncomfortable. And so when I was at Second City, which is a sort of a sketch group, famous in Chicago, with a lot of pretty much every comedic star has come through Second City. So there'd be a sketch show, and then at the end there'd be improv. And between scenes, sometimes you would have to stretch time while the actors were getting into costume. So I would always volunteer for that. So I would get a chance to talk to the audience and try to figure out ways to make it easier for myself. And I did it. So it really is a muscle that you have to keep toned. I find if I haven't done it for a while, you really get the fear comes in, and that shouldn't happen. So yeah, just do it wherever you can. Work with people who are better than you or have different skill sets from you, and do it because you love it. Don't do it because it's going to make you famous, because that won't happen. I mean, we just lucked out that this show came along, took advantage of our only skill, and gave us careers. But I mean, you can certainly make a good living at improvising. There's some great troops in Norway who I've had the pleasure to work with. So yeah, just keep at it and just have fun.
Yeah. And remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
Last question here before we wrap things up. You've had a varied career, and from the outside looking in, it looks like you've achieved everything you set out to achieve. Is there anything you have left on your list that you feel like this is the one thing, the one role, or the one project that I have to do before I retire, for example?
Yeah, I've always, and I think it's perfect now that I'm this age, I want to do an action movie where I am the star. Only because in most action movies, you know, and I love, you know, like John Wick, all those, when you're watching, you go, this guy's going to make it. If I was the star, you wouldn't be sure. You'd be a little more invested in whether I was going to make it or not, because there's no guarantees I'm going to come out ahead in a knife fight or any kind of a fight. So I always wanted to see action. I love action movies where you're not quite sure how's this guy going to survive, and you'd have that in spades with this guy.
I'd watch that movie.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Man. Well, for the future, let's hope that Brad Sherwood at least gets one laugh on your next show. I'll even turn up and laugh just to be polite. I don't know. And here's hoping that we can beat COVID very soon, that you can go back to your numerous projects, and hope that your wife and your daughter and yourself, sir, stay safe. And just want, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me. It really means a lot.
Oh, thank you. It was lovely. I had a lot of fun.
Good. Du har hørt på en episode av Portrettpodden, en podcast med meg, Mats Lasse-Angås, og min gjest i denne episoden var skuespiller og improvisatør Colin Mochrie. Har du gjort deg noen tanker mens du har hørt denne episoden? Har du ris eller ros eller tips som skal komme, eller har du spørsmål, kan du ta kontakt med Portrettpodden på Facebook eller portrettpodden@gmail.com. Mye takk til Colin Mochrie for at han tok seg tid til å være gjest i denne episoden. Takk for at nettopp du hørte på, og vi høres snart igjen.